Teresa Huff, and this is my daughter, Maryann Huff. We are here tonight to introduce Mark Huff. Our daughter will tell you about the coach, and I'm going to tell you about the man. Mark is a husband, father, son, hunter, and a Christian. He is respected by his players, his community, his family, and believe it or not, most high school officials. He has a place in his heart for each and every player that he has ever coached. He has taken them to doctor's appointments, visited them in the hospital, watched them marry and succeed in life, and even had to speak at one of their funerals. These young men came back to visit and introduced their children and wives to their coach. The love on the faces of these players is priceless. Something I hear Mark say when someone tries to give him a compliment about his accomplishments is that he was blessed with great players. This is a very true statement. However, I also feel that God has blessed Mark for being an exceptional man. People young and old love my husband. He has spoken at elementary schools, Bible schools, church services, and community events. He has a little old lady fall in love with him everywhere he goes. After a state championship season, he receives tons of messages and mail from all of his senior ladies. He also goes by to check on them. He prays for them. And when they go to live with the Lord, he is a pallbearer at their funerals. He has touched many lives in 32 years as a basketball coach. I love to tell that I came to Gaffney kicking and screaming. I couldn't believe it when Mark wanted to apply for the job at Gaffney High School. I was perfectly content with our life and our new baby in Greenville. But God had a different plan. A parent asked me over the summer before the school year started if I knew why we were moving to Gaffney. I told him that I would love to know why we were moving to Gaffney. And he said, because my Sunday school class prayed you here. Mark has allowed God to use him in every area of his life. As a head basketball coach, he has a platform to witness to young men every year. Mark has lived his life by example, and I am proud to be his wife. He is a loving husband and a father and a wonderful man.
Good evening, my name is Maryann Huff, and my daddy has 32 years coaching experience, 24 of which has been as a head coach, 5 years at Southside, 2 at J.L. Mann, and the last 17 at Gaffney. His teams have won a total of 474 games while only losing 169. They have won 6 state championships and 4 upper state championships. His team have won 11 region titles, and he has been named Region Coach of the Year 11 times. He has served as the assistant coach for the North-South All-Star Game in 2005 as the head coach in 2011. Last year, he was the head coach at the South Carolina All-Stars and the Carolina Classic All-Star Game. He has been an active member of the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association and has been named their Coach of the Year 3 times. He is currently the head basketball coach and athletic director at Gaffney High School. Please welcome for induction into the Basketball Coaches Association Hall of Fame, my daddy, Mark Huff. Thank you.
Notepad out. Former speech teacher Carson over here. Don't grade me on this. But I'd like to say thank you, especially Teresa and Maryann, for those kind words. To Greg Elliott, I think Greg is actually the coach that called me and asked for my information. So I'm going to say he nominated for this award, so I want to thank Greg for that and for the Basketball Coaches Association for this honor. As a coach, this is nothing that I set as a goal when I began coaching some 32 years ago. but I'm truly honored in the sports such as Louis Golden, Bill Johnson, Doug Lau, and Tim Whipple. Men I watched as a young coach win state championships, and then had a chance to coach against, and men I truly respect. This is hard for me to believe. I wouldn't be here tonight without the help and support of a lot of people. I'd like to start by thanking my parents. When I asked them as an 8th grader to send me to Tate's Locks basketball camp to Clemson, who would have ever thought it would lead to this? You were at every game I ever played, and just about every game I ever coached. Dad ran the clock at our home games for over 20 years. That might be why our home record was so good. And my mama made hundreds of pans of brownies and Rice Krispie treats to feed the guys after the games. I'd like to thank y'all so much for everything you've done, and I'd like to thank my sister Kathy and her husband and son for bringing them down here tonight. Would y'all please stand? Next, I'd like to thank my wife Teresa and my daughter Maryann. Maryann has been drugged all over the state of South Carolina her whole life, watching basketball games. And in the past few years, she's been a vocal supporter in the student section at Gaffney High and also as a cheerleader. When my mama was no longer able to make the brownies, Teresa took over and kept that tradition going. She has been a sounding board when I needed someone to vent things at, such as complaining parents, and even had to increase free throw percentages. I'm blessed, guys, that most of y'all aren't. I have 2 mother-in-laws that are actually here tonight. Jean and Cindy, Teresa and Maryann, if y'all please stand. Thank y'all. I'd like to thank the coaches I played for while I was growing up. First would be Coach Steve Chamness, my 8th grade coach at Hughes Middle School. He kept me on the team when I probably wasn't good enough to make it. And I still believe there are some 8th grade girls in my class that talked him into keeping me on the team. But it was playing at Hughes Middle School where my love for the game blossomed. Also, I'd like to thank Coach Sam Worley and Coach Dickie Hitch, who I played for at Southside High School. My high school track coach, Dave Hall, a man who taught me so many things about coaching, one of them which is there's nothing better than hard work. And then my coaches at Carson Newman, Gene Mahaffey, Steve David, and Terry Haviland. I went to Carson Newman in the fall of 1977, knowing I wanted to coach, but also knowing my playing days were over. It was Coach Mahaffey who asked me to be a student manager, and that allowed me to stay involved in the game while I was in college. When Coach Mahaffey left at the end of my freshman year, Coach David allowed me to hang around for 3 more years and even gave me a copy of our daily practice schedules, which I still have in a notebook today. Thank you, Coach. Then there are the coaches I've worked under, all of whom taught me something that I still use. Doug Morgan and Ronnie Combs at Rutledge High School in Rutledge, Tennessee, Sam Worley at Southside, and Mark Stewart at J.O. Mann. I'd like to thank all my assistant coaches who have been an asset to all of our teams and who without their help I wouldn't have been as successful as I've been. Some of them are here tonight, and I'd like to recognize them if you all would please stand. Philip Mackham, Philip Hambright, Landon Reeves, Mark Ireton, thank you all guys. It's been a great ride. And then there are my principals and administrators who have supported me so much throughout the years. A few of them are here tonight also, and I'd like for them to stand. First, Dr. Rashad Fitzpatrick, my current principal at Gaffney High School. Marlene Davis, my past principal at Gaffney High School. And Dr. Quincy Moore, my past principal and current superintendent at Cherokee County School System. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. But the one I believe I owe the most to has to be the principal that gave me my first head coaching job, Dr. Judy Davis. It was in the summer of 1990. She took a chance on a young, gung-ho, and probably not the most qualified applicant for the job, and gave me the head coaching job at my alma mater, Southside High School. Thank you, Ms. Davis. I want to tell a little story. I got the job in the summer of 1990, but 3 years earlier than that, I didn't think I had a snowball's chance of ever getting a job at Southside. I was an EIA math aide at Southside for 3 years, and Ms. Davis was my principal the last year. And what I would do is I'd go around to different math classrooms each period, and I'd ask the teachers, well, what do you need me to do today? And they'd say, well, you can grade papers, you can tutor this student, you can do whatever you need to do. I said, okay. And I was the JV coach under Coach Worley. Well, one day, and I can't remember this teacher's name, I'll call her Miss Smith. I went in Miss Smith's class. I said, well, what do you need me to do today? And she said, I need you to go down. We've got a softball game. She was a softball coach. I need you to go down and get the cooler and fill it full of ice so we can leave for Liberty right after the game. I said, okay. Well, Miss Davis was an excellent principal, but she was a tough principal. The kind of principal that when you heard her coming down the hall, the teachers stood up, the students sat up, and pencils were picked up. And you could hear Miss Davis coming because she always walked real quick. And you could hear her high heels, or she always carried a clipboard like this. And she had a walkie-talkie that was always laid on the clipboard. So you could hear her coming either by hearing her walk or by her walkie-talkie going off. Well, this particular day, I went down to the coach's office like my teacher that period asked me to do, and I picked up the cooler, and I went walking back down the old Southside High School, and you walked into the lobby. The cafeteria was over on the other side, and here was the front office. Well, right as I cleared that corner, with the cooler in my hand, Miss Davis walked out of the office. And I thought, oh my gosh. And we looked at each other. She said, Mr. Huff, where are you going? I said, I'm going to get some ice for Miss Smith. She said, well, what does that cooler have to do with math? I said, nothing. She said, well, you need to take that cooler back to the office, and you need to go back to Miss Smith's class. I said, yes, ma'am. So I took the cooler back. I went back to the math class, told Miss Smith I didn't get the ice. I got busted by Miss Davis. So I thought it was all cool till the next morning, about 8 o'clock, we're over the PA with Miss Smith and Coach Huff, please report to the front office. So I went to the front office and was told to go to Miss Davis's office. We got a stern lecture and a letter in my file. And I think that's the only letter, Miss Davis, that I ever received. So thank you for straightening me out. And thank you for giving me a chance. And lastly, I'd like to thank the players that have played for me. From Chauncey Adams to Jamal Young and everyone in between, thank you for your time, effort, hustle, determination, will to win, and all the great memories. God has blessed me with some outstanding players over my career, and a few of them are here tonight. I'd like for them to please stand up. Philip Mackham, Philip Hambright, and arguably the best player I've ever coached, LJP. I'd also like to recognize LJ's mom, Miss Pete. Thank you for being here tonight, too. As Coach said about the clinics, when he said that, Coach Brown, something jumped in my mind years ago. clinic was in Columbia, and Pat Head Summit from UT was speaking, and I was sitting in that room, and I'm looking around at all these coaches. And it was my first year as the head coach at Southside, and I'm looking around, I'm thinking, look at these guys. And here I am going to be the head coach, but Pat Summit said something that I've never forgotten. And she said, surround yourself with good people. And that's something I've tried to do with players, assistant coaches, and family. Surround yourself with good people. In closing, I'd like to say, I believe coach is one of the greatest titles that someone can have. And I'm so thankful. I'm called a coach every day. God calls people to the coaching field just like he calls people to the ministry. In the Bible, Paul tells us in the book of Romans, the 9th chapter, we have different gifts according to the grace given us. If a man's gift is prophesying, let him use it in proportion to his faith. If it is serving, let him serve. If it is teaching, let him teach. If it is encouraging, let him encourage. If it is contributing to the needs of others, let him give generously. If it is leadership, let him govern diligently. If it is showing mercy, let him do it cheerfully. There's one more I think he could have added. If it is coaching, let him coach. I thank God for giving me the gift of coaching. Thank you all. I love you, and may God bless you as he has blessed me. Thank you.